Hi, I'm Samia Pedalino. Welcome to the Creating Wealth Masterclass, Session 4. Today, we're going to be talking about saving and investing. The first 3 sessions, I laid a spiritual foundation in regards to money mindsets, generational wealth, and giving, and just biblically what the word has to say about it. But today, we're going to get practical. I want to talk to you about how you can practically invest your money so that it can increase and multiply, not only for you, but for your children as well. So I have a bit of experience in finance. I actually was a financial advisor for many years, and I was on a team, and we managed just under $300 million, and it was mostly high net worth families. So I got a front row seat to how the ultra rich make money, preserve money, and build. So it's just a really great time in my life where I was able to see what people did in order to pass on money to the generations, not just second and third, but even fourth, fifth, and sixth. And so I want to talk about some of the things that I learned while I was there. And the main takeaway I want to teach you is that it's important to break money out into 3 buckets, okay? The first bucket is an emergency fund. The second bucket is a children's fund. And the third bucket is an investment fund. So with the first bucket, emergency fund is just what it is. It is a checking account where you have around 3 to 6 months of savings. So let's say you get laid off at your job, or the air conditioning breaks, or some type of emergency happens. You have money in the account, and it lowers your stress because it's there to pay for the emergency. The point is, we don't really want to put emergencies on credit cards if we can help it. Most credit cards are above 20% in interest. And so if we can have funds in place, even you just keep it in cash. It's just like a cash reserve, so that when things happen in life that are unexpected, you can be prepared for it, because things happen. We can't control everything. And so this is something I call the swan effect, to sleep well at night. So that's the first bucket. It's your emergency fund. And it's really just, being responsible at the end of the day. So the next thing is the children's fund. This is your second bucket. So the idea of this is to have a separate savings account, or what's called a brokerage account. It's an account where you can have like stocks and ETFs and bonds and mutual funds for your children. There's something in America called a 529 plan, and it allows parents to put money away for their children for education. So by the time they turn 18, they have an education fund that they can use for any college that they want to go to, ministry school. It just has to be something accredited. So if for whatever reason you feel like, well, I don't know if I want to put money away every month for a 529 account for my child, because I don't really know if they're going to go to college, and then what happens if, I put all this money away for 18 years and then they decide college is not for them. So the great thing about 529 plans is 2 things. One, you can give the money to a sibling. It can be passed on to a sibling tax-free. Or a close relative. You actually, as a parent, you can use the money if you want to go back to school. Nieces and nephews, uncles and aunts, they're pretty loose with the guidelines of, it just has to be like a family member. It just can't be like a 5th cousin. And then if even then you're like, there's nobody who wants to use the money for education, the second thing you can do is you can actually roll the money into something called a Roth IRA, and that is a retirement account which your child has access to when they're 59 and a half. So worst case scenario, it'll be something they can use towards retirement that you help them with, which is nice, because that is part of generational wealth, to help fund them when they are at an older age, or they can actually use it for the purposes of a 529, which is for education. So I understand that in countries like Germany, Norway, Finland, they actually have tuition-free universities. And there's other accounts in those countries that you can open for your kids. Even if you're like, well, I live in this country, my kids are going to go to university for free, I don't really need an education account. Where there's something else you can still do for them, it is a custodial account. So what that means is that usually if your child is under the age of 18, it would be a joint account with the parent and the child, which is called custodial. And in this account, you can buy stocks, you can buy exchange traded funds, ETFs. There are things you can buy in this account so that it grows. So if you put away, $50 a month for 18 years, and it grows around 8%, you're going to end up with around 25 grand because of the growth, because of the compounding of the growth. So if that's something that we could give to our kids, it would be amazing. Some type of custodial account or some type of education account where we can put away $50 or $100 a month for them. And one of the things my husband and I do is when it's my kid's birthday or Christmas or Hanukkah, because my family celebrates Hanukkah, we say to them, hey, what's your budget to spend on my son and my daughter? And if they say, oh, we want to spend $100, we want to spend, $200, I go, okay. If you're willing, can you write a check to their account instead? Because then you take part. They have so many toys and clothes, they don't need anything. Yeah. Then you take part in their future education or a custodial account. When they're 18, they have access to these funds. They can use that money as a down payment on an investment property. They can, whatever, they can start a business with it. It just gives them a little bit of a start when they're older and they get out of the house. And so, some grandparents, they want to see their grandkids open gifts. They're like not happy about writing a check. They want to get the pleasure of seeing the gift making their grandchild happy. And so in that case, and I do have family members like that, I ask them to do 50% of what they're going to spend on whatever toy gift they want and the other 50 in the form of a check for the account. I'm like, okay, I'll meet you halfway. You can still buy them a gift, but also fork it up. So it's just good communication. And I think a lot of them are impressed and they're like, oh, I should do this with my kids. Because, it's like my brothers and my husband's siblings. And just by you doing it, it actually sets an example and then it becomes normal. And so we want to get to a place where it's okay to talk about money. We're trying to better our children's lives. There's no shame around it. So anyhow, that's one of the things you can do for your kids is either the education or the custodial. And so you just have to be aware that in America with the custodial account, when they become of age, some states it's 18 and some states it's 21, they actually have full access to the funds. So they can literally just walk into the bank, show their ID, and withdraw all of it. And they can go start a rock and roll band if they want to. So you really want to teach your children about finances so that they're literate in it and help them hey, you're turning 18 soon, let's potentially get a rental property for you. Or let's, what are some companies that we could buy into on the stock market? So I think it's important to educate them through the way you don't want to just ruin them with a chunk of money and have them blow it. So it's our job as parents to teach our children the importance of how to steward and manage money. We cannot rely on the school systems. Yeah. We cannot rely on the government. We're the ones who are called as their parent to be teaching and guiding them.
That's so good.
So you really want to do for your children what wasn't done for you. We want that they are our legacy. And the third bucket I want to talk about is the investment bucket. This is the fun one. This one is where you put money in every month in the stock market, or you can build a real estate portfolio. You can kind of choose what you want to do with this money, but the purpose is so that you are able to provide not only for you and your spouse, but also your family. There's a lot of expenses in life, and your children are going to need cars, weddings, colleges. You want to be able to prepare so that things are provided for in the future. And a lot of this, it starts earlier on. I know that we kind of live in a get-rich-quick society. We kind of have this lottery mentality. People just want to get rich overnight, but with finances, from my experiences, it's actually long term. It's, you do it every month. You almost pay it like a bill when you're investing every month. And what ends up happening is it's something called dollar cost averaging. So let's say like my phone, I have an iPhone, and it's made by the company Apple. Apple is sold on every continent. It's an international company. Just like Coca-Cola. You can buy Coca-Cola, Pepsi, in almost every country. So Apple, for example, I'm like, okay, I'm using this product. I'm going to buy this stock. I'm going to take part in this company doing really well. So I own some Apple stock. And I can add quarterly or monthly and buy shares of that particular stock. And so in the course of 12 months, some months Apple's up, some months it's down. The market goes up, the market goes down. So what ends up happening is you buy in at different price points, and it gives you something called dollar cost averaging, where the average cost of the stock over 12 months is generally lower than if you just like put all your money in January. So you have better returns when you can dollar cost average. And the other great thing about adding like an automatic payment every month is that you kind of set it and forget it. It creates a consistency. And so some people, they're not comfortable with the stock market. I worked in the field and had a lot of interaction and experience with analysts and studying balance sheets and things like that. So I can understand like, wow, that might be kind of intimidating for somebody who just has no finance background. So I would encourage you to study it, but also if you're more comfortable with like a physical, tangible asset, and an asset is simply just anything you can convert to cash, I always encourage people to get into real estate. I think that owning real estate is always a great idea. One of the benefits is it's something that can increase in value. So yes, a lot of times you go into debt to get into real estate, but you're going into creating something that not only can increase in value, but it also can create income for you if you are able to rent some of it out. So as a parent, what I would love to do for my kids is which I do for my kids, is with the custodial account, adding money every month. So then when they're 18, 19, 20, they have a chunk of money. And I can say to them, okay, let's look for something that maybe is a duplex or a fourplex, and you can live in one and rent out the other. And then now there's other people helping you to pay off your mortgage. So if you're somebody who like isn't comfortable with the stock market, instead of putting money every month, into buying like Apple, Google, Tesla, whatever, you can actually just put money into an account. I would say give yourself 18 months and just leave it in cash and save up for a down payment to buy something. And like I said, it's a long-term play, but you could have that property for the next 40 or 50 years. I mean, you can pass it on to your kids. So it's about planning. Even if we see the story, remember when Joseph, he interpreted that dream of the Pharaoh? And, he said to him, we need to put 1/5 away for 7 years so that we have enough when there's a famine. That was 20%. And one of the things I teach is very baseline of give 10 and invest 10, which is 20%. And then the other 80 you live on. Like, if you can give more, great, do it. If you can invest more, great. Especially you single people that have disposable income. But I understand once families happen and mortgages happen, sometimes people aren't able to do more than that 20. But give 10, save 10 is very biblical, and it will set you up for success. Part of this is planning and being kind of obedient to the steps to have that financial freedom that you want for yourself and your family. So it really does help you build wealth when you're doing this. And there's certain, there's different types of accounts that you can do. We have something called a Roth IRA. It's a really great investment account offered, and it grows tax-free, which is great. You can buy and sell in it throughout the years, and there's no tax consequence if there's gains until you reach a certain retirement age. So I always suggest if spouses can open up a Roth, it's a great way to fund retirement if you don't have a 401k or some type of pension plan working for a big company. You kind of have to create your own. So just an example, I have in my book, and I'm giving the example today, like let's say somebody's 23 years old, okay? And they start out with $1,000 in a bank account, and they add $200 a month because they're working and they're making money. And every year it makes around 9%. Now the stock market has averaged around 10% the last 10 years. But I did less. I'm like, let's say there's a couple bad years. Some years the market's up, sometimes it's down, but overall it averages around 9%. By the time you're 65, you have $1 million. $1,045,000 actually. Just $200 a month. So it's important to realize, like, actually planning ahead, it sets you up for success. And this is something that, a lot of parents didn't learn, they just didn't know, and they just spend what they make. They eat their bread, they don't actually sow any seeds. And so just like, it's important for us to give into the kingdom, it's actually important for us to invest so that we can help fund the kingdom, so that we can be ones who multiply. The Lord's a God of multiplication. So we want to partner with that. It's important. And there's something over in Europe, they have like private pensions. It's the Pan-European Personal Pension Product, the PEPP. So there are some products overseas that these countries put in place for people. But you also, if you're in Europe, you can have your own brokerage accounts that you're able to have a second stream of income and not just rely on what the government is providing or the company that you're working for. And so some of the things that are in these accounts are stocks, ETFs, and mutual funds. I just want to touch on what they are. It's just, I know some people have never had like a finance 101 class, but I think it's important to know, like, if you're going to be investing every month, you need to know what you're putting your money in. So an ETF is an exchange traded fund. And simply what that means, it's a fund, and they usually have around 100 positions. And let's say that fund is like $200. You could put $200 into that fund every month. It has a share price. And because it has so many positions in it, it's percentages. So maybe they have 1% of Apple, 1% of Microsoft, 2% of Coca-Cola, whatever it is they have. You can look it up and see the positions they hold. Some of those stocks are going to go up and some are going to go down, but it diversifies you versus having like all of your money in one stock. An ETF is really great because it gives you diversification. So, there's a war in one country, the market goes down. Your ETF won't generally crash or decline as much as like having everything in one stock because there's other stocks in there that are doing fine. So it just mitigates your risk a little bit. And ETFs also have very low fees. They mirror the sector. So there's an ETF on the healthcare sector. It'll be like 100 stocks in healthcare. There's an ETF on technology sector. There'll be an ETF. There's even ETFs on cryptos. Like, you can find a category that you feel comfortable with. There's ETF, which is large blue chip companies. Blue chip companies are like billion-dollar companies that you pretty much find on the shelves of any country you go to, right? Like McDonald's would be one. So just brand name, like household names that are everywhere, that are international. And so what I would say is start conservative, and you want to just be consistent and invest monthly. And then if for whatever reason you don't feel comfortable, I would have an account that you put aside and make it your real estate account and just put money in it every month until you have enough for a down payment in whatever state or country you live in. One of the things America has, they have something called a FHA program. It's the Federal Housing Authority, where if you're a first-time home buyer, you only have to put 3% down. So if you're buying a house that's like $300,000, your down payment is $9,000. I mean, you can save up $9,000 in like a year if you really wanted to. You could get creative, right? So it just depends on how motivated you are with real estate and how quick you want to purchase your first property. The second thing I want to touch on is mutual funds. Mutual funds are similar to an ETF. It's a fund, but it's operated and managed by a person, and so the fees are higher. So I like ETFs a little bit better because the fees are lower in them. Even ETFs, I think there's like 2,000 ETFs to choose from. There's so many. So pray what sector you want to invest in. And so The last thing I'll touch on is bonds. So government bonds, tax-free bonds, corporate bonds, it's actually a $1 trillion market. Like, there's a lot of bonds that get issued. And it's a type of fixed income. A lot of people who buy bonds are in retirement age because they don't feel comfortable with the fluctuation of the stock market. Bonds generally kind of go like this, whereas stocks can go like this, you know? So, for example, when an investor purchases a government bond, they're essentially lending money to the government, and the government gives them interest on it. And then when the bond is due, they get their principal back, but they've earned interest along the way. So that's kind of how a bond works. There's also something called tax-free bonds that the ultra-wealthy really love because they're tax-free. So, you know, if somebody has a few $1 million and they want to buy like a 4 or 5% tax-free bond, they'll make that money tax-free. So that's what we want for everyone. We all want to get to the point where we're like, I need tax-free bonds. Then you know you've made it. So I really, the last thing I want to touch on is just the real estate and the rental property. Proverbs 31:16 says she considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard, which is a business. So from the real estate, she uses the income to fund a business. So you just want to be creative with the Lord, using your gifts and talents and the Holy Spirit guiding you on how to make your investments, what to purchase. And by the way, you can do real estate and the stock market. You know, it just depends what your income looks like and what phase in life you're at. And so I just encourage you to have vision. Like, that's what we need. You know, people without vision, they perish. And set aside limited thinking or fear around this area. And imagine things you want for your kids. The wedding you want to throw them. The college you want them to go to. You know, the car that you want them to drive. So it's the inheritance that you're leaving to your children that they can, like Isaac, multiply and increase and then leave to the next generation. So it has to start with someone. So why not start with you? You be the one. Whereas like poverty stops. The line is drawn. You will be the one who creates multiplication in finance for your family. And so that's really just my heart for this masterclass and for the people at this table and watching, is that you have breakthrough in this area of any type of like limiting belief system that you have, that you can renew your mind with the Word of God. The book the Lord had me write, like the last 5 or 6 pages, it's actually all scriptures to meditate on of what the Word says about finances and wealth. And so I think it's important to meditate, even if it's just a scripture a day. You know, 10 minutes every morning, staying in the Word and staying close to God and hearing what the Spirit of the Lord has to say. And so whether you decide to invest in real estate or bonds or stocks or all of the above, you really just want to have a strategy of diversification and a plan in place to move forward and just start. I think that's my main encouragement, is open up the account, start researching, decide, you know, the percentage that you can do every month into that investment account. You have to do the work. You have to take the step. You have to give God your yes. And just start by funding one bucket at a time. You know, start with the emergency fund. Once you have a cushion in there of cash, then, okay, what can you do for the children's fund and the investment fund? You can do them at the same time. And so Proverbs 13:11, it actually says, wealth quickly gained is quickly wasted. Easy come, easy go. But if you gradually gain wealth, you watch it grow. Patience, it's a fruit of the Spirit. Lord, help us.
Wow.
We all need patience.
Yeah.
And so that's my encouragement for you today. Start the process, put a plan in place, write the vision, and have patience, and bless and speak life over the investments that you are going to decide to do.
Wow.
Do you guys have any questions?
Let's say you got an emergency fund already. Okay. And just a scenario. You have emergency fund, and now you're ready to put into the other 2 buckets.
Okay.
Would you put into the other 2 buckets at the same time every month? Like put a some money in the children's fund and then also invest? Or in the investment bucket, is that for your children?
I think you could sit down with your wife and talk about it. You know, it depends how old your kids are. Like if you could do an education fund for them, I would just do that and not worry about the custodial.
Yeah.
And if you could do the education account at the same time as like an investment fund, because you'll use that for your kids.
Yeah.
Like you can, with stocks, if you need the cash, you can sell it and the cash is available in 3 days. Like it's liquid. Now with real estate, it's a little different because you have to put it up for sale if you want to liquidate it and wait for a buyer. But both things are still something that you can and sell and liquidate and have it, like if you need the money to pay for something or whatnot. So if you're able to do both, that's wonderful. But if, you know, you're like, well, we only really have enough money for one and we have kids, I would do the investment. Because eventually if you buy real estate and stuff, you're going to leave it to them anyway.
Yeah.
But I do think that I do have a high value for education. You know, if I break my arm, I hope that the doctor I go to went to med school, if he's going to fix it, or open heart surgery. Do you know what I'm saying? Or if I need an attorney, like they better have gone to law school. Like there is value in certain sectors of education. I understand there are college degrees that don't translate into good enough salaries that cover what you paid for college. So we just have to use wisdom with our kids. Like, hey, if you're going to go to college and do the further education, it needs to be something that increases your value in the marketplace. Just like if you get a mortgage or debt for a real estate property investment or personal, you want it to be something that's going to increase in value. We don't want to be going into debt for like designer purses, right? So I would encourage you to, if you can, do both, and if not, focus on the investment.
Yeah, that's so good. Thank you.
For the second bucket, children's fund and investment fund, is that necessarily you're going to a professional at that point? Or let's say you're don't feel very confident or versed in that area. Are you kind of looking to go to a professional for that? Or is that something that you should do entirely on your own and educate yourself? Do you have any recommendations on that?
Yeah, so most of the time with professionals, which would be like a financial advisor, they have minimums. So a lot of times they will only take on a client if they have like a minimum amount of money to invest. Every minimum is different. You know, it generally starts at like $250,000. Some financial advisors won't even talk to you unless you have $1 million. So I encourage people to start investing yourself. There are platforms like Fidelity, Vanguard, E-Trade. There's all these platforms where you literally can just open up an account online, transfer money in from your checking account, and you can invest yourself. They actually have analytical reports giving suggestions. But in the sense of, lowering risk, ETFs are great because it does diversify you a lot. And you're not married to it. Like you can buy an ETF and have it and add money to it every month for a year and then sell it and buy another ETF. Like you're not in like covenant relationships with these stocks. Like you want to follow them, markets change, markets move. You might think that, hey, this year I think pharmaceuticals is going to do really good because there's a new vaccine coming out. Let's buy that. Like you want to just pray with the Holy Spirit on where should I be, investing my money? And you can absolutely do this yourself. I mean, there's like hundreds of YouTube videos truly that teach you how to invest, that talk about even how to read balance sheets. You want to invest in companies that have cash flow. Even if you look at companies, I mentioned earlier, Apple, I think they have like $500 million sitting in cash just because of all their research and development and all the patents they have out of all this cool stuff they want to make. You want to be investing in forward-thinking companies.
Yeah, right.
So you could do it yourself.
Yeah.
You got this.
Wow. Yeah. What were some of those platforms again that you mentioned?
Fidelity, Vanguard, E-Trade, even some of the banks that you have your checking account at, they have investment platforms. Like for instance, in the US, Chase Bank has the JP Morgan platform. You can buy and sell stocks at no charge. So a lot of these accounts are free because they're competing with other firms who let you do it for free. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us for session 4, and we can't wait to see you for session 5.